In Africa, every predator has its own strategy. The leopard relies on silence. It appears out of nowhere, and its prey only realizes its presence when it's too late. The African wild dog depends on teamwork. It may not be the strongest or the fastest, but when 20 pairs of jaws work as one mechanism, the result speaks for itself. And then there's the cheetah, a creature that has put everything on one card: speed. And when I say everything, I mean literally everything. Every organ, every bone, every muscle in its body is restructured for one single task: to chase. But here's what no one tells you in beautifully shot documentaries. Speed isn't a gift, it's a trade-off. And for every kilometer per hour, the cheetah has paid with something that other cats cannot live without. It can't roar. It can't defend its food. It's so genetically similar to other cheetahs that its immune system operates as if the entire species is one organism. And yes, in zoos, they introduce a dog to it because without one, it literally can't cope with anxiety. But let's take it step by step, because the story of the cheetah isn't just a tale about a fast animal. It's a story about how nature demands a price for perfection, and why sometimes that price is unbearable. Let's start with what you see when you look at a cheetah: its coat. Because even here, in the most obvious detail, there's an engineering logic that few consider. The cheetah's coat is covered in black spots, not rosettes like a leopard, not stripes like a tiger, just round or slightly oval spots, each about 2 to 4 centimeters in size. And this isn't just a decorative element. In the dry grass of the African savanna, where light falls in patches through sparse bushes, these markings break up the outline of the body into fragments. A creature weighing nearly 50 kilograms simply ceases to exist as a whole object to the observer's eye. The silhouette shatters, and instead of a predator, you see a play of light and shadow on the yellow grass. But that's just the first layer. There's a second one, and it's much more interesting. The pattern of spots on each cheetah is unique. No two are alike. Scientists who have tracked populations in the Serengeti and Masai Mara for years use photographs of the coat as a biometric code. Just like forensic experts use fingerprints, they photograph the sides, upload the images to a database, and an algorithm recognizes a specific individual by the arrangement of the spots. This means that every cheetah literally carries its own passport. And here's where we get to the thing that makes the cheetah's camouflage not just useful, but vital. The fact is, the cheetah is one of the very few large cats that hunts during the day. Lions come out at dusk. Leopards prefer the night. But the cheetah operates in broad daylight, when visibility is at its peak, and every gazelle on the plain can spot danger from hundreds of meters away. Why? Because at night, the territory is controlled by those who are stronger. Lions, leopards, hyenas, they're all active after sunset, and a cheetah, which weighs 3 times less than a lion, simply can't afford to compete with them for nighttime hours. Daytime hunting isn't a choice, it's a forced strategy, and that's why camouflage is a matter of life and death for it. Because here's the trap: the cheetah's sprint is limited, not by time, but by distance. 200 to 300 meters, that's all it has. After that, its body starts to overheat, its muscles become acidic, and the animal has to stop, whether it wants to or not. This means that every hunt is a calculation. If the prey spots the cheetah from 400 meters away, the hunt is over before it even begins. If it's 300 meters away, the chances are minimal. The cheetah needs to get as close as possible, ideally within 60 to 70 meters, before it can unleash its one superpower. And this is where camouflage transforms from a beautiful detail into a survival tool. The cheetah doesn't just hide, it stalks, slowly, crouching low to the ground, using every bush, every unevenness in the terrain, every patch of shadow. Its flat head barely rises above the grass. The spots on its coat make it part of the landscape. And in those moments, as it creeps toward a herd of gazelles, expending not calories, but patience, you don't see a sprinter, You see a sniper who knows he has exactly one shot. If it misses, if the gazelle bolts too early, if the wind carries its scent, it's all over. There's no trying again in 5 minutes. There's no switching to another target in the middle of the chase. It has to wait, recover, look for a new opportunity. Meanwhile, its body is using up energy, which is already scarce because the cheetah can't afford to store fat. Extra weight means lost fractions of seconds, and those fractions of seconds make the difference between food and hunger. That's what this spotted coat is really about. Not beauty, though it's undeniably beautiful. Not about impressing a tourist with a camera in a jeep. Each spot is part of a system that determines whether this creature will eat today or remain hungry. And when you understand this, you start to see the cheetah in a completely different light. You don't see a graceful animal from the cover of National Geographic. You see a being caught in the vice of its own specialization, too fast to be strong, too light to fight, too dependent on one short burst to afford even one mistake. And that's just the beginning. Because when we look inside, beneath the skin, into the bones, into the organs, into the very architecture of this body, it becomes clear how far nature has gone to create the fastest land animal on the planet, and how costly that has been. If an engineer were tasked with designing a land animal for maximum speed, while being forbidden to use motors, wheels, and fuel, he would ultimately sketch out a cheetah. Because this isn't just a cat that runs fast. It's an organism in which every detail is subordinated to one function, and none exists for its own sake. Let's start with the head. The cheetah's skull is small and flat, with a noticeably shortened muzzle. If you place a cheetah's skull next to a leopard's of the same size, the difference is striking. The cheetah's muzzle looks as if it's been trimmed, and the first thought that comes to mind is aerodynamics. A smaller head means less air resistance at speeds over 100 kilometers per hour, but that's only half the truth. The real reason is that the shortened muzzle frees up space for enormous nasal passages. During a sprint, a cheetah takes between 60 and 150 breaths per minute. In comparison, a resting human takes 12 to 20. These wide airways are necessary to pump colossal volumes of air into lungs that are also enlarged relative to body size. And the lungs are just the beginning of the list. The bronchi are wider than those of a cat of similar weight. The heart is larger. The liver is larger. The adrenal glands, which produce adrenaline for explosive acceleration, are also enlarged. Each of these organs seems to be taken from an animal one size larger and inserted into the body of an average predator, all to ensure 20 seconds of absolute madness when the body operates at the limits of physical possibility. Now, the spine. This is perhaps the most impressive part of the design. The cheetah's spine is so flexible that it works like a spring. When the animal runs, its body goes through two states: complete compression, when the back legs overtake the front ones and the spine arches upward, and complete extension, when the body stretches into a string and all four legs lift off the ground. At that moment, the cheetah is flying, not running, flying, and the length of one such leap step reaches 7 meters. 7 meters in one movement. That's more than the length of most cars. Now, the tail, long, up to 84 centimeters, with a flattened tip that acts like a rudder. When a gazelle makes a sharp turn at full speed, and that's exactly what gazelles do, it's their main defense against the cheetah. The tail swings in the direction of the turn and acts as a counterbalance. Without it, the cheetah at that speed would simply fly out of the turn like a race car on wet asphalt. The eyes, positioned high on the head, almost at brow level, and directed forward. This provides sharp binocular vision, the ability to accurately judge distance to a target at long ranges. The retina has a higher concentration of nerve cells leading to the optic nerve, which makes the image sharp, even at distances of several hundred meters. The cheetah sees a gazelle long before the gazelle sees it. Plus, there's a third eyelid, a thin transparent membrane, a nictitating membrane, that closes the eye while running and protects it from dust, sand, and headwinds. Without it, at speeds of 100 kilometers per hour, the eyes would simply dry out in seconds. And what about the black stripes that run from the inner corners of the eyes down to the mouth? They're not war paint or decoration. They work just like the black paint that baseball players and American football players apply under their eyes before playing in a sunny stadium. The dark surface absorbs light instead of reflecting it, reducing glare from the bright African sun. The cheetah hunts during the day, and it's critically important for it to see clearly, without blind spots from sunlight glare. These stripes are built-in sunglasses. Now, the paws, and here's where it gets really strange. The cheetah is a cat. By DNA, it's most closely related to the cougar and the small South American predator, the jaguarundi. But if you find a cheetah's track in the sand, you'd think a dog passed by. Because the cheetah has semi-retractable claws, they don't fully retract into the pads like those of all other cats, but always stick out, like spikes on running shoes. They dig into the ground with every step and provide traction, without which reaching 100 kilometers per hour would be impossible. And the pads of the paws have stiff longitudinal ridges that work like tire treads, another level of grip with the surface. And here's the paradox. For these running spikes, the cheetah has paid with its ability to climb trees. The leopard drags its prey up a tree to hide it from hyenas and lions. The cheetah can't do that. Its claws aren't adapted for climbing. Another price of speed. Voice. The cheetah doesn't roar at all. Its vocal cords are structured differently than those of lions and tigers. They've hardened so that the larynx can pass more air while running. The result? A roar is physically impossible. Instead, the cheetah purrs, both on the inhale and exhale simultaneously, just like a house cat on your lap. But the most astonishing sound is its chirp, a high, bird-like piercing cry that can be heard from 1.5 kilometers away. If you hear it on a recording and don't know the source, you'd never guess it's made by a 50-kilogram predator. And since we're talking about how unlike a typical big cat the cheetah is, here's a historical fact that confirms this. Humans have been domesticating cheetahs long before they started recording history. The earliest evidence dates back to Sumer, about 5,000 years ago. Then cheetahs were kept by Egyptian pharaohs, Persian shahs, Indian rajas. Emperor Akbar the Great, who ruled the Mughal Empire in the 16th century, kept around 1,000 cheetahs for royal hunting. 1,000. They were taken hunting in hoods, like falcons, and the hood was removed when game appeared, and the animal did its job. But here's what's astonishing. Over all those millennia, across all those hundreds of courts and thousands of domesticated animals, not once has it been possible to produce offspring in captivity. Not a single cub. Every new cheetah had to be caught in the wild. This animal agreed to live alongside humans, hunt for them, eat from their hands, but it categorically refused to breed in a cage, as if, on some deep level, the cheetah understood that what it is can only exist in the wild. And this brings us to the next part of the story, the hunt itself, those 20 seconds for which its entire body is restructured, and what happens after, when the speed ends and the price begins. Here's what it looks like when you strip away the beautiful music and slow-motion shots. The cheetah spots a herd of Thompson's gazelles. It doesn't rush in immediately, it chooses. It scans the group, identifies a specific individual, usually one that's lagged behind a bit, distracted, or hesitated. Then the stalking begins, just as we discussed in the first part, low to the ground, slowly, meter by meter. The spots on its coat do their job, and the herd continues grazing, 60 meters, 50, 40, and then everything explodes, 0 to 100 in 3 seconds. That's not a typo, and it's not an exaggeration. The cheetah accelerates from complete stillness to 100 kilometers per hour in 3 seconds. Most production sports cars do it slower. At maximum, it reaches 93 to 104 kilometers per hour, and some measurements have recorded 114. Each leap is 7 meters. The spine compresses and decompresses like a spring. The tail stabilizes the body and turns. The semi-retractable claws tear into the ground, and all of this happens in absolute silence because the cheetah doesn't roar, doesn't scream, doesn't warn. It just appears behind its prey like a shadow that has gained speed. The final move is honed by generations. When the distance shrinks to a minimum, the cheetah strikes the gazelle's hind legs with its front paw, not a hit, but a trip, like a wrestler sweeping their opponent's legs. The gazelle stumbles, loses balance at full speed, and tumbles to the ground. And in that same second, the cheetah grabs it by the throat, not by the neck, not by the back, right by the throat, cutting off its breath, a grip from which the prey loses consciousness in mere seconds. In the Serengeti, where scientists have observed hunts of Thompson's gazelles for decades, the cheetah's success rate reaches 70%. 7 out of 10 attempts end with a kill. In comparison, lions, which hunt in groups and weigh 4 times more, catch prey about 26% of the time. In pure efficiency, the cheetah is the best hunter in the African savanna. But here's where the tragedy begins. 20 seconds. That's all the cheetah has. A maximum of 20 seconds of full sprint, after which its body gives out. The internal temperature rises to critical levels, muscles become overwhelmed with waste products, and breathing becomes so rapid and shallow that it can no longer cool down. The animal is forced to stop, not because it's tired in the usual sense, but because another 30 seconds of running could kill it. And there it lies next to its prey. Its mouth is open, its sides heaving, its eyes half closed. It needs about 30 minutes, half an hour, just to lie there and breathe before it can start eating. 30 minutes of complete helplessness in the middle of the savannah, where every sound and every scent attracts those who are stronger. And they come. Lions, hearing the commotion. Hyenas, catching the scent of blood. Leopards, even vultures circling in the sky act as a beacon for ground competitors. They signal that someone down below is eating. Research has shown that in about every 4th or 5th successful hunt, the cheetah's catch is stolen. They simply approach and take it, and the cheetah concedes. Almost always, without resistance, without trying to defend its food. It turns and walks away hungry. It looks like cowardice, but it's pure calculation. The cheetah has a light skeleton. It must be light for speed. Thin bones, minimal muscle mass in the upper body, no safety margin. One broken leg, one damaged shoulder, one serious bite, and it can no longer run. And an animal that can't run can't hunt. And an animal that can't hunt dies of starvation. So fighting for one meal is Russian roulette, where losing means not just a hungry evening, but a slow decline. The cheetah makes the only rational choice. It retreats and tries again. But wait, because everything you've just heard is the problem of one specific cheetah. Now let's talk about the issue that concerns the species as a whole, and it's far more frightening than any lost catch. About 10 to 12,000 years ago, at the very end of the last ice age, something went catastrophically wrong. The exact causes are still debated: climate change, the disappearance of familiar prey, competition with other predators. But the result is indisputable. The cheetah population collapsed. The North American cheetahs, which had lived for thousands of years, went completely extinct. European populations disappeared. A handful survived, literally a handful, in Africa and a small part of Asia. And this handful became the ancestors of all the cheetahs that live today. Geneticists call this a bottleneck, a moment when a species goes through such a small population that genetic diversity collapses almost to zero. And the consequences of this event are still being felt by cheetahs, hundreds of generations later. How serious is this? Here's a fact that sounds like fiction. Scientists, in an experiment, transplanted skin grafts from one cheetah to another, from a completely unrelated individual, from another population, from the other side of the continent. The recipient's body did not reject the foreign tissue. It didn't react at all. Its immune system accepted it as its own, as if it were a piece of skin from an identical twin. This means that genetically, all cheetahs on Earth are practically clones of each other. And this isn't just a curious fact for a biology textbook, it's a death sentence. Because when an entire species is genetically identical, it has no defense against epidemics. Any virus that learns to bypass the immune system of one cheetah automatically bypasses the immune systems of all the others. In one sanctuary, an outbreak of feline coronavirus, a common cat virus that poses no threat to most species, decimated a large portion of the healthy population. Not a single animal had a genetic variant capable of resistance. In males, up to 70% of sperm is abnormal, deformed, immobile, non-viable. The breeding success in captivity has long hovered around 10 to 15%. Geneticists say outright, the cheetah is a living example of what happens when a species loses diversity. A textbook case of extinction in slow motion. Today, the numbers look like this. Fewer than 7,000 individuals on the entire planet. Since 1900, the population has decreased by more than 90%. The Asian subspecies, which once inhabited from the Arabian Peninsula to India, has shrunk to literally a few individuals in Iran. And the royal cheetah, the one with spots that merge into broad stripes along its back and looks like a completely different animal, isn't a separate species or even a subspecies. It's the result of a rare recessive mutation of a single color gene, known as the Rex mutation. Just another reminder of how thin the thread is that holds this species over the abyss. But cheetahs are still here, and in the next part, we'll talk about why. About mothers raising cubs in a world where literally everything is against them. About brothers banding together for survival, and about completely unexpected allies who came to help from places no one expected. 5%. Remember this number because it defines everything you're about to hear. Of all the cheetah cubs born in the wild, about 5 out of 100 survive to adulthood. Not 50, not 30, 5. This means that every adult cheetah you see in a documentary or safari park is a statistical miracle. A creature that shouldn't have survived by all laws of probability, but somehow made it through the first months of life, where literally everything worked against it. And it made it through thanks to one single being, the mother. A female cheetah leads a solitary life. She has no pride, no pack, no partner to help raise her offspring. She gives birth to 2 to 8 cubs, and from that moment on is alone against the entire savanna. She hunts alone, feeds alone, protects alone. And she does this in a world where lions deliberately kill other cubs, and hyenas can scent a den of cubs from kilometers away. But the cubs have a secret weapon, and it's astonishing. Newborn cheetahs look nothing like their parents. They have a long silvery gray mane on their back and neck, and their body coloration is inverted, light on top, dark on the bottom, the complete opposite of the usual camouflage scheme. Biologists have spent decades trying to understand why cubs have such a strange outfit, and the most convincing hypothesis sounds almost like a movie plot. This coloration is mimicry of the honey badger. The honey badger is a small but incredibly aggressive creature, one that even large predators in Africa prefer not to mess with. It has thick, almost unchewable skin, a complete lack of fear, and a readiness to attack anyone, including lions. And it just happens to have that characteristic silvery back with a dark underside. A cheetah cub, pressed to the ground in tall grass, looks like a small honey badger from a distance. And a potential predator prefers not to check if that's really the case. But even with this trick, 95 out of 100 don't make it. Lions, hyenas, eagles, diseases, hunger. The list of threats is endless, and the mother, despite her selflessness, can't be everywhere at once. Every time she goes hunting, the cubs are left alone. Every time, it's a lottery. Those who survive and grow up behave differently depending on their sex. Females go off on their own, each to her own territory, each for herself. But males do something interesting. They form coalitions. Usually, these are brothers from the same litter, 2, 3, sometimes 4, who stay together for life. They jointly defend their territory, hunt together, and together they can take down prey that would be too much for one. But here's what truly surprised scientists when they began studying the composition of these coalitions in the Serengeti. About 30% of the members are unrelated males, strangers. Cheetahs that have lost their brothers or grown up alone, who are accepted into an existing group. This isn't family, it's friendship. A conscious choice to live and hunt together with someone who isn't blood related, simply because together the odds are better. Among large cats, such behavior is practically unique. And since we're talking about friendship, it's time to tell a story that began in 1976 in a small town called Winston in Oregon, and changed the lives of cheetahs around the world. A biologist named Lori Marker was raising an orphaned cheetah cub named Kayam. The cub was alone, without a mother, without siblings, without kin, and he was terrified. Cheetahs are nervous animals by nature. They easily fall into stress, and a cub without a family is a bundle of anxiety. Lori didn't have another cheetah to keep him company, but she did have a dog, a Labrador mix named Cheetah, and out of desperation she tried to introduce them. It worked. The puppy became for Kayam what a brother from the litter would be in the wild, a calm, confident anchor next to which he didn't have to be afraid. The dog didn't fidget, didn't get anxious, didn't flinch at every sound, and the cheetah began to read this behavior and mimic it. Next to the dog, he calmed down, started eating, started playing, began to behave like a healthy young animal rather than a creature in a state of chronic panic. 4 years later, in 1980, the San Diego Zoo adopted this practice. Then other zoos followed suit, and gradually the companion dog for cheetahs program became standard across the country. Usually, golden retrievers, Labradors, or calm, friendly dogs from shelters are used. A puppy is introduced to the cub at an early age. They grow up together, and the dog becomes the leader of the pair. The cheetah follows it, relies on its reactions, and if the dog is calm in an unfamiliar situation, the cheetah remains calm too. There's an important detail. You can introduce an older dog to a new young cheetah, but not the other way around. The adult cheetah won't accept a new dog. The bond forms only in childhood. But dogs help cheetahs not just in zoos. The nonprofit organization Cheetah Conservation Fund, which by the way was founded by Lori Marker, has been working in Namibia since the 90s and doing a simple yet brilliant thing. They give local farmers puppies of Anatolian shepherds and Kangal dogs, huge Turkish herding dogs that have been bred for centuries to protect herds from wolves and bears. These dogs don't attack cheetahs. They simply live with the herd and bark, loudly, deeply, threateningly. And when a cheetah hears this barking, it turns and leaves. It doesn't want conflict. We already know why. Any injury is fatal for it. It simply looks for prey elsewhere. And a farmer whose livestock is guarded by a dog no longer reaches for a gun. Because previously, the main cause of cheetah deaths in Namibia wasn't lions or hyenas, but bullets from farmers protecting their goats and sheep. The program has reduced cheetah killings by more than 80%. 80%. A dog that simply barks saves more cheetahs than all wildlife protection laws combined. And now we've come to the end. The moment to pull everything together and say what the cheetah really is. It's an animal that lives on the edge, between incredible perfection and genetic fragility, between record speed and complete vulnerability right after the finish, between the highest hunting success rate in Africa and the inability to hold on to its own catch, between 5,000 years of friendship with humans and the inability to produce offspring in their presence. The cheetah is a reminder that evolution doesn't hand out gifts, it makes deals. And the brighter the advantage, the harsher the price. Speed cost it strength, lightness cost it durability, specialization cost it flexibility. And once, 12,000 years ago, when the world changed too quickly, that price almost became final. But it survived. 5% of cubs, and it survived. 70% of defective cells, and it survived. Stolen prey, shrinking habitat, dwindling gene pool, and it's still running. 100 kilometers per hour across the scorched savanna, with a heart beating so fast it seems it might burst. 20 seconds for everything, and not a second to spare.